Ladies and gentlemen,
Well, I can't bring it every month.
the hour of 9:45 having arrived, I would like to call the public hearing to order for the purpose of receiving comment on the proposed issuance of the county of its special limited tax-exempt bonds and notes not to exceed $20 million in principal amount for the purpose of financing or refinancing the acquisition and rehabilitation of a multifamily residential housing development known as Carroll Tower through a mortgage loan to the owner that is to be repaid by the owner and will therefore not constitute indebtedness of the county. This was originally intended as a hearing before the county board meeting, but now we need to continue that hearing due to an error by the Daily Herald newspaper in publishing the legal notice of the public hearing in which the street number of Carroll Tower was omitted. Because of that omission, it's not official, and therefore all parties need to wait for a month before we come back together again. So we cannot receive public comment at this time. The hearing will be continued Tuesday, August 9th at 9:45 a.m. I recognize that first of all, it's not easy to run an operation like Carroll Towers. I'm very grateful to the owner of that business, not only for all the services that he provides to seniors at safe housing, comfortable housing at affordable price, but he is also a taxpayer of the county, paying $150,000 at that one location. And so I'm grateful, and I'm also grateful for his patience. But not only difficult to run an operation like that, but it's also difficult to run an operation the size of the Daily Herald, 2 months, 2 problems that we've had, or to run something the size of Kane County. I think that everyone is trying to do their best, but it should call upon our sense of humility when these kinds of things happen. So anyone from the board who'd like to comment at this time, but no public comment, we'll continue that to our next meeting. Okay?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Sure.
Thank you. Carroll Towers is in my district, and I'm supportive of this activity. I also want to point out that my mother-in-law and my wife's aunt both lived at Carroll Towers. My wife's aunt, Jenny Schroeder, was one of the original residents of that facility, and it's an excellent facility and provides a very needed service to seniors and other folks who, well, you have to be a senior in order to live there. Provide them an excellent accommodations in a very good location downtown St. Charles. So I'm supportive of this.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we'll continue the hearing until before the next board meeting. Now I'd like to call to order the Kane County Board meeting of July 12, 2016. I'd like to ask the clerk to call the roll.
Ellen. Present. Alger.
Here.
Ferrerio. Castro.
Here.
Dahl. Here. Davist. Here. Fraz. Here. Gillum.
Here.
Heyman.
Here.
Hoshite.
Here.
Ishmael.
Here.
Kenyon.
Here.
Gazarik.
Here.
Leonard.
Here.
Lewis.
Here.
Martin. Here. Molina. Pollock. Here. Shefflo.
Here.
Silva. Here. Smith. Here. Sterrett. Vasquez not present. Winnicki.
Okay, we have a quorum. Okay, we have a lot of ground to cover today. This morning we have a great demonstration once again of representative democracy and the exercise of free speech. We'll have a lot of speakers, so we're all looking forward to what folks have to say. Now, on the Pledge of Allegiance and prayer, I'd like to ask Lucas Winarski and his brother Dominic and his mom Laura and his dad Joe are here today to come to the podium and lead us in the pledge. Lucas, who will be a second grader at Gilbert's Elementary this fall, was diagnosed with cancer in August of 2015. On May 12th, he successfully underwent his 4th surgery and pulled through with flying colors. So let's all wish Lucas the very best and send love and support from across the county for this very brave young man and his family. And I'd like to ask Kurt Kozarek, who asked Lucas to join us today, to come up and join one of his constituent families. So, Lucas, we're going to stand up and you're going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you for coming today.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well done. If you would remain standing, please. I would like to ask Pastor Bruce McAvoy from First Baptist Church of Geneva to come to the podium and lead us in prayer.
Would you pray with me? Abba, Father, we give you thanks. Lord, we recognize that this young man that has just done the Pledge of Allegiance is a thankful young man, and his family is thankful too, and you are a great healer. So we pause and say thank you for Lucas's successful surgery, and we invite you to continue to heal him and restore him so that he can be an active member of our community and our county. Lord, we also thank you for this place that we gather here today. As simple as it sounds, on a hot day, we're thankful to have these places of air conditioning where we can gather to make good decisions. Lord, we are also aware that these are times that are challenging, both here and around the world. And Lord, we give you thanks for our brothers and sisters who are of another color. Give us unconditional love for those who look differently than us. Lord, we're thankful for people that protect us. So Lord, we invite you to give protection to our officers both here and around the world and in this country. Lord, as we do this meeting together, we invite you to give us wisdom and discernment. There are people of great influence and leadership and awareness. And Lord, I pray that your Spirit would fill each one of us so that we can make sound decisions and be mindful of all the needs and opportunities that surround us. Give us patience. Give us the ability to be slow to speak and quick to listen throughout our morning together. And we'll be so thankful. We pray all this in God's name. Amen.
Amen. You know, before we approve the minutes, I would like to make an expression of gratitude, all of us, gratitude and support for our law enforcement community and all who support it, and then call on us to recommit, again, on all of our parts to defend and serve our constituents. It is true that tears of joy have no color. So do we have anyone in the audience or on the board who has either served as a police officer, county deputy, in law enforcement? If you'd please rise. Thank you so much. Okay, may I have a motion to approve the June 14th, 2016 minutes? So moved by Ms. Sterrett, second by Mr. Leonard. Are there any thoughts, comments, or changes? All those in favor of approving the minutes say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The motion passes. Minutes are approved. Because we have under new and unfinished business presentations discussion, the chairman's short program today is going to be really short. I would just like to acknowledge two folks, and I know one of them is here. That is John Martin, who was awarded the Lions Club highest honor. So John Martin, The first time I ever met you was at one of those Monday morning or Monday noontime lunches, and then I believe that I also served with you at the brat stand as you were raising money for doing volunteer work for different organizations in your community. So would you please rise, and we'd like to give you a round of applause. We are fortunate to have so many really good people serving on our board here among the 24. I also would like to acknowledge, is Bill Lake in the audience today? You know that Bill Lake is right-hand person to Roger Fonstock in our information technology area, and he was just appointed by the United States Army Reserve an ambassador for Illinois, and so next time you see Bill Lake, if you congratulate him, he's now an ambassador for the U.S. Army Reserves. So, and it's well-deserved recognition. Anybody who knows or has worked with Bill knows that he's just a great guy. So, thanks. Okay, now let's see. Speakers on agenda items. We have speakers in the development area. Those I'm going to reserve for when we come to that section of the program. And Kurt Kozarek, our board members and chairman of the development committee, will lead that. But in the meantime, we have two individuals who signed up prior to the deadline to speak on agenda items this morning. Those signed up to speak on zoning petitions naturally will be deferred until those items come up on the agenda. As I call your name, would you please come to the podium, state and spell your name for the record, and I'm asking that the individual speakers limit their comments to 5 minutes with total public comment time for items listed on the agenda listed for 30 minutes. We have two people, Janice Jasper, if Janice would come forward, and then Roz Strapko, and they're both going to be addressing the Long Meadow Parkway. Ms. Jasper, is 5 minutes going to be okay for this morning?
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
My name is Janice Jasper. I live at 2120 Tracy Lane in Algonquin. And my comments today are regarding, no surprise to you, but the Long Meadow Toll Bridge project. I feel that I must again voice my opposition to this roadway as a complete waste of taxpayer dollars at the county, state, and federal levels. There is disagreement whether the extension and expansion of Long Meadow will have any effect on traffic congestion. The road will go through Bruner Forest Preserve, which the taxpayers purchased with the approval of a bond referendum to be a forest preserve, not a 4-lane roadway. And the toll bridge, which crosses the Fox River, will certainly have its own environmental impacts. At your meeting today, however, you are going to move forward with the bond process to acquire the rest of the money you need to complete this project. At least that's my understanding of what that issue is going to entail. I hope that you will keep your excuse me. I hope you will keep your actions very transparent, because the residents of the county have a right to know how, if at all, this bond issue will affect them. My understanding is that depending on the type of bond you issue, Kane taxpayers may or may not be responsible for paying off the bonds should the income from the tolls not be sufficient. We should know your thinking and planning as this moves forward. If our taxes are going to have to pay for this project even more than they already have, then we should have every opportunity to give our input. And even if they don't, I would hope that you would see this as an opportunity to reach out to county residents and use this project as a teachable moment. I see that the Carroll Tower bond issue was in today's agenda, and your response to the requirement to hold an open hearing for this bond issue was to simply attach it to a regular board meeting, which you can certainly legally do. My hope, however, is that you will hold open hearings on the Long Meadow bonding issue in different parts of the county, at a time when regular working people can actually come to the meeting and ask their questions and give their opinions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jasper. Mr. Strapko? Oh, I'm so sorry. Ms. Strapko. Mrs.
Strapko.
And is the 5 minutes?
Yes. This is more than adequate.
Thank you.
A couple of questions. When will the new noise study and environmental impact study be posted to the Longmeadow Parkway?
Speak in the mic.
I'm sorry. When will the new noise study and environmental impact study be posted to the Longmeadow Parkway website? That's one of our questions that we have. What is the monetary incentive for the contractors to complete the first phase early? Because we understand that right now it's supposedly under budget, but we don't have any information as to what the incentive is for them to complete it early. And right now, when your bonds are issued, if they are issued, we do intend to go for a binding referendum. Because we understand that you personally, Mr. Lausen, had an issue with the referendum in the election, or the election in March, saying that it wasn't fair, or I think your words were it was biased against the Parkway. I think that if it had gone in your direction, you guys would all be singing a different tune, but it was quite fair. Everyone knew exactly what they were voting for and what they want and what they don't want. So, and you can shake your head no, but that's exactly what people want. People do, actually, they don't want this, this toll bridge. So we do intend to go for a binding referendum, but those are some questions that we would just like to have some answers to as to when that will be done, especially the environmental impact statements. So when that will be posted to the website. And that's all. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mrs. Strapko. Ms. Strapko, the chief engineer, Carl Shadle, is right. Carl, if you'd stand up, please. And then if you can discuss the, Carl would be the person who would be happy to provide answers to those questions. Okay?
Very much.
Thank you so much for coming. Okay. Regarding zoning petitions, I'd like to ask our Development Committee Chairman, Kurt Kozarek, to discuss and make motion to approve each of the following zoning petitions individually. So let's see. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Kozarek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, everyone on the board. Before I get into the zoning petitions, I just wanted to again thank Lucas and his family for coming out here and inspiring all of us to give us the courage in our daily lives and our actions here on the county board. If any of you are as touched as I was about Lucas's story, he does have a GoFundMe page to help his family raise some of the funds needed to offset the cost of the surgeries and everything else. And I believe Kane County Connects will post that information for you. Mr. Smith has already generously said that he would make a pledge, as well as others. Getting into zoning petitions. The first petition, 4378, is in Blackberry Township. The petitioner is the MA Center. It is a proposed amendment to existing special use to allow additional residential units, campus buildings, a farm stand, and a Montessori school. The Zoning Board of Appeals recommends this. 5 stipulations. The first stipulation is the MA Center shall install left and right lanes on Kessinger Road at the MA Center Drive before the conclusion of Phase 2 or before October 31st, 2021, whichever occurs first. KDOT reserves the ability to accelerate the timing of this requirement due to traffic operations or crash history. The second stipulation is that there shall be no intensification of the existing farmstead land to the northeast corner of the site that would add traffic to the associated Kessinger Road access points. Any future school or other buildings located on these lands will require the removal of the 2 Kessinger Road accesses. Future access to the site will be via MA Center Drive. The third stipulation is the farm stand at the northwest corner of the site shall retain its existing access to Kessinger Road. The proposed access road road between the main campus and the farm stand is to be used for the operations of the farm stand and not for public use. This proposed access road is to be gated, which will allow access to emergency vehicles to the main campus when necessary. Fourth stipulation, a concept stormwater management report was received by Water Resources on 5/2/16 as requested during staff meeting in September 2015. The concept plan addresses the overall stormwater management for the site and areas set aside for the stormwater management basin and outfall storm sewers. The complete stormwater management report and design will be required by the stormwater permit application will need to be submitted and approved by Water Resources prior to any site work or building permits. Septic was permitted, renovated, and inspected when the MA Center was initially moved into the property. The requested change will only require a relatively small change to the existing septic system. All changes will be required to be permitted and inspected by the Kane County Health Department. Their water systems is permitted by the EPA. In addition to those 5 stipulations, Development Committee asked for an additional 2 stipulations to be included. The petitioner has agreed to both. The first one is the replacement of existing exterior lights with downcast lights to minimize any light pollution for neighboring residents. And the second is a restriction on the height, limiting the dormitories to 3 stories in total. With that, Development Committee did approve. I will make the motion following allowing for public comment. So our first speaker on this particular issue is Philip Piscopo.
Would you like a second to your
Well,
motion?
I believe we have to actually have the public comment before we go into this, so I probably should have asked for public comment before I just read all that. But
Okay.
I'll correct that now and allow public comment.
Okay, when you come to it. Thank you. Thank
So
you.
as I was saying, the first speaker was Philip Piscopo, and if I'm saying a name incorrectly, I apologize. We can't. Okay. Well, Peter, you were listed next, so we'll let you speak then at this time. And per our rules, you're given 5 minutes.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Peter Storm. I represent 3 adjacent property owners to the proposed project. Ed Richardson, who has his personal residence and a significant acreage there. Jeff and Michelle Molnar, who are here, who also have their residence to the west of this proposed development, and then the Polivkas, who had an original farmstead that is now the Molnar home, but own additional acreage to the west and south of this proposed development. We did send to each of you a original memorandum and a supplemental memorandum. If anybody wants additional copies of that, if you didn't get it, I have those available. I just want to briefly highlight a couple of things. Although you will hear that this is sort of just piggybacked on an existing special use, our view of this is a major redevelopment of this property. This is on the level of a major subdivision or small village. We are talking about the introduction of over 192 apartment units in three-story apartment buildings, and another 72 residential units, which the petition and the site plans that have been submitted show as being either in 2 to 6 unit buildings. And we are talking, even if there were only 2 occupants for each one of these multifamily dwelling units, we're talking about a new population in this area of over 500 people. And that doesn't include children, that doesn't include additional residents per unit. And so we have 3 major problems with that. One is that at the Plan Commission level, there were required to be submitted plans, and the Plan Commission is required to make findings with regard to the drainage for the property and the other facilities. Stop there. If you have a multifamily residential apartment building that contains 64 units, you have to have parking spaces. Your zoning ordinance says that you have to have 2 spaces per residence unit. That's 128 parking spaces for each of the 3 buildings. When I parked in the lot furthest out here this morning, I counted the parking spaces as I walked in. There are 20 in an aisle. A parking lot that consists of 128 spaces, even if it's not on the dimensions of that lot, would have to have somewhere in the area of 5 aisles with 20 parking spaces each. You'll search the plans that have been submitted in vain to find the parking. It's not there. How could the Plan Commission possibly consider and determine the impact this development is going to have on drainage without those plans? Why is that important? This is all sitting right next to Blackberry Creek. And that's one of the most important considerations for my client. Blackberry Creek already overflows. The Blackberry Creek watershed is significant with regard to this development. But without plans that show how those lots are going to be excavated, how the water from those parking spaces are going to drain, the Plan Commission and this board couldn't possibly make findings that the drainage for this proposed development is adequate. It also can't really determine what the impact of the lighting or those parking spaces will be on adjoining properties. So for that reason alone, we think that this matter ought to go back to the Plan Commission. Now, it will be said, and it has been said, oh, don't worry about that. We can take that up at the permit stage. But that isn't what the zoning ordinance says. The zoning ordinance says the Plan Commission has to make those findings, and it didn't. And for that reason alone, this special use petition shouldn't be granted. Second important point is there isn't any provision in the zoning ordinance to allow a multifamily residence to be built in a farming district. There's no provision that permits that as a permitted use, and there's no provision that permits it as a special use. And there's a reason for that, I submit, and that's because multifamily residences are controlled by R5 through R9 of your zoning ordinance. There cannot be any question that these are multifamily dwellings. There's an effort to characterize them as temporary housing, but ultimately you will see that the petitioner said that the occupancy of even those what they call temporary housing is as much as 6 months. That's an apartment building. And if it's anything less, it's a hotel. If the occupants are transient, then it's a hotel. Either way, there's no provision in your ordinances that permit the construction of apartment buildings in a farming district. This is appropriate for some sort of rezoning petition, a PUD. When you have a mixed-use development, any developer coming in here and saying, I want to build a church, and I want to build 3 apartment buildings, and I want to build 72 multifamily residences, would be asking you to rezone this property under a planned unit development. And then we would have all the appropriate considerations for the construction and the maintenance of multifamily dwellings. But none of that has been pursued here. Instead, 2 things are always said. One is that exemption Q under the special uses that are enumerated for a farming district is what applies. Multifamily dwellings and apartment buildings aren't mentioned there. So there isn't any statutory authority under the zoning ordinance for a multifamily residence within a farming district. The last point I want to make is that, and we've made this in the memorandum, and this goes to the same sort of detail in terms of a PUD zoning or more appropriate, is that there's a prohibition against having more than 1 residence on a zoned lot. And that exists in a farming district. Now, what Mr. Radovich has said in the past is, well, that provision only applies in residential districts. And what he's focused on is the title of the section, which does say that it's a residential district. But your own ordinance says that the catch lines or those titles are not parts of the ordinance. There's a reason why I submit that it has always been historically that you could not have more than one residence on a farming district lot. And if you wanted to build multiple residences, you have to subdivide the property. And that's what your ordinance tells you. There's been no request for an exemption to that. Instead, they simply think that because this is it once was a boarding school, there's now authority to construct all of these multifamily residences. This isn't a boarding school. It isn't an accredited school. It isn't providing dormitories for people who are attending school. These are apartment buildings, and the petition describes it as such. These are permanent single-family residences that are combined into a 6-unit development for each of the 72 additional permanent residences. Those aren't dormitories, they are residences. And as such, you have to follow the ordinance that is in place with regard to the authority to construct those. And that hasn't been done. Obviously, the way to solve some of these problems is for this board to send this matter back to the Plan Commission to address the drainage and the other residential uses. It would be better for my clients if we're going to challenge this matter in the circuit courts to leave it in its defective condition right now. That obviously increases our chance of succeeding in the courts. But I think the appropriate way so that we do this as a community is to send this matter back to the Plan Commission to develop the drainage plans, to develop the parking plans, and then allow that commission to consider those plans and give its approval. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time. And again, if anybody wants a copy of the memorandums we've submitted, I have those.
Thank you, Mr. Storm. Our next speakers are all listed from the MA Center. I would ask if one person would like to come forward and speak to summarize or to respond.
My name is Charles Radovich. I represent the MA Center, and it's correct. The other speakers that have signed up are representatives from the MA Center. Mr. Gottshagen, who is the CEO, and I are here primarily to respond to any questions that the board may have. The application for the additional special uses at the MA Center have not only been reviewed and analyzed by all of your professional departments, but the application received clear recommendations from the Zoning Board of Appeals. This did not go to the Plan Commission. It went to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a public hearing. It was a lengthy public hearing. Many people spoke at that time. And your own development committee recommended the approval of this application. In addition to that, Mr. Fraz, who's the board member representing this district, is in support of this application. I would be remiss if I didn't briefly comment on a couple of items that Mr. Storm mentioned, although I did send a letter to the board members to address some of his memorandum points. I would just like to remind the board that in 2012, this special use was reaffirmed by this board, allowing the MA Center to establish and reestablish what had been on this site since the late 50s in 1960, when the Seventh-day Adventists created the Broadview Academy. It's more than just a boarding school. It had a religious component, it had a chapel, it had dormitories in which up to 600 students, male and female, attended, gymnasium, administration buildings. It was a full campus that was a religious order for educational purposes. That's what is being continued here on this site by the MA Center. So with that, I thank you very much. We are here to respond to any questions that you may have. You want to make your statement? I think for the record, Mr. Chairman, and I will do this on behalf of Mr. Gottsagen, so there's some continuation here, that in light of the state's attorney's opinion that it was inappropriate for the special use approval to include stipulations regarding the use of restrictions on the attendance of school-aged children at Kaneland schools, the MA Center desires to clearly inform the board of its policy. The MA Center will create an internal policy that discourages stays beyond 6 months in the proposed 192 temporary lodging units, which, by the way, are substitutes for the dormitories that were there under the Broadview Academy days. And furthermore, this internal policy will discourage families with children from placing their children in the Kaneland School District. The MA Center maintenance and operational personnel and their families shall be exempt from that internal policy. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Radovich. Does anyone else here care to speak on this issue that might not have signed up previously? If you'd like to step forward, sir.
I think I signed up, but probably a little bit too late. My name is Nathan Sumner, Nathan-Sumner. So real briefly, thanks for letting me speak. My name is Nathan Sumner. In addition to being the Republican Precinct Committeeman of Campton 3, my wife and I are the operators of Heritage Prairie Farm in Elburn, Illinois, which, among other things, is an organic farm and farm store. As I was reading about this meeting, I read an article that talked a little bit about the MA Center's intent on having an organic farm and farm store, and I was very excited to hear about that. We worked very hard to grow the organic farming industry here in Kane County. I did have a thought, though, that I have not yet heard addressed, so I wanted to bring it to your attention and just mention it here today. Organic farming is a really tough business. Our expenses are high, and the price that people are willing to pay for the food doesn't always match up with those expenses these days. The largest expense that we incur, though, is market rate labor. Actually, I'm very proud and humble that our business can provide labor paychecks for our farmers, and they use those to pay their bills. In fact, many families rely on the revenue from Heritage Prairie Farm to pay their bills, and we're just one of many farms in the areas. The fact is that small businesses rely on the local marketplace to survive. When a nonprofit enters the marketplace, things can change. Nonprofit organizations do not have to rely on the revenues and profit from their venture to survive. Capital for equipment or access to land can merely be donated, and labor can be volunteered. Without such expenses, the cost of production is very low, and the price in the marketplace can drop. And the end result can be the unintended eroding of a free market that many of us in the county have spent years building. Healthy competition is good, but a level playing field is an essential component of healthy competition. Now, I've spoken with some friends and community leaders who have assured me that the folks over at the MA Center are good people, honest people, and have nothing but the best intentions, and I don't doubt that for a moment. So I'm here to say that regardless of whether or not this special use passes today, and I'm not here in opposition of this passing, but I'm simply here to say that Heritage Prairie Farm and myself, as local organic, local food industry leaders, we'd like to work in cooperation with our neighbors at the MA Center to ensure that they can use their land in a way that fulfills their own green initiatives, while also continues to build on the local food system that we've built in Kane County and protects the livelihoods of the families that depend on it. So that's all I had to say, and I thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, sir. Seeing no other speakers signed up or coming forward. Yes, ma'am. Please.
My name is Nicole Roberts, Nicoleroberts. I live at 925 Independence Avenue in Blackberry Creek. I'm about 2.5 miles west of where the proposed building is supposed to take place. My intentions originally were again to discuss the zoning code and how they relate to this petition that's been presented by the MA Center. Various violations of the zoning code established by the Village of Elburn and Kane County as they pertain to the petition for special uses. These codes have been referenced numerous occasions during this process, starting with the zoning board. I've attended all of the meetings since the zoning board on. These codes were established to ensure the safety, comfort, and general welfare of the surrounding community and those most affected by the project that result from the passing of the petition. In general, you've heard Mr. Storm talk about them. The use of farmland with special use for religious purpose does not include provisions for residential living to the extent proposed in the petition. We keep hearing about Broadview, and however, at the height of Broadview, when that 600 students were there, was probably over, I'm going to say 25 or 30 years ago. I do not also believe there were three-story dormitories. Am I wrong on that? I don't know if you guys know. Were there three-story? Also, there was no residential permanent housing other than for the students, I believe, and staff, and this is proposing the additional 72 residential homes. There also was a complete lack of parking in regards to the magnitude of this project, and again, you would never be able to tell from the soil reports that you've had what that parking would, what that would do to water, the watershed, or soil erosion, sorry. It seems that for the most part, these grievances have not really been heard by any of the boards. We keep being told that this is about property taxes or kids entering the school district. Things of that nature, which we were informed at the last meeting, these boards have no control over either of those. As stated, property taxes are levied by the state of Illinois, and as far as kids entering public school, that would fall upon the Department of Education and the Illinois Board of Education, and we know we cannot deny any child access to our public schools. These two major concerns, back to the property taxes, were addressed by the MA Center, and we even got a delay for 30 days from one development meeting to another. And it was said by the board that the reason for this was to look into the property tax issue or maybe make some amendments. These amendments were actually proposed at the next meeting. It seems to me this was just kind of a stall thing or to appease the objectors in this case from the standpoint of, I'm pretty sure most of you on this board are very intelligent and knew that you had no control over letting them say they could have these residents pay property taxes or not. I feel that these things that were done were just a waste of the board's time, the objector time, and the MA Center's time. I feel that somewhat some of these things are, and the reason this is maybe zoning codes are being ignored, is there's always a fear when we talk about religion in this country, and we know that we have freedom of religion. However, the fear of the federal government and the fear of the RLUIPA Act, which is the Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act, do not ignore the rules and ordinances imposed by local governments. Local governments still hold power. As insignificant or unimportant or tedious as it may seem to follow these rules, it is necessary. Many builders and landowners in the county would love to be given the leniency in this case during this petition process. I've talked to builders and farmers who tried to change their farmland to residential or to break it up and sell it. They were just laughed out of Elburn. They never even made it here. This is not an issue of religious freedom. No one has tried to stop the MA Center from initially purchasing the land. No one has interfered with their right to peacefully practice their religion for the past 4 years. No one has harassed devotees of the organization or those from the public who have benefited from the services and programs provided by the organization. This is an issue about zoning and following the rules and regulations that have been established and relied upon to ensure the safety, comfort, and general welfare of the community. These rules are no more restricting in regards to the MA Center than they would be for any organization, private or public, trying to obtain a special uses permit for a project of this magnitude. On a second note, this is also an issue of a conflict of interest. Our district representative abstained from voting at the last meeting, saying that he had done work for both sides involved in this case. I am not represented by Mr. Storm, and I just wanted to, for the record, to say he has never done any work for me. Thank you.
I believe this is the last person who has asked to speak. You have half a minute.
I believe I may have misspoke in referring to the Plan Commission. I had the Geneva zoning in mind for a moment, and I was talking about the Zoning Board of Appeals.
I believe we understood what you meant, not what you said, so don't worry. With all the, that concludes the public comment portion. With all that said, I would make the motion to approve the petition with the 7 caveats that have been added on.
Okay, so moved by Mr. Kozarek, second by Mr. Martin. And now discussion. So, Ms. Wojnicki.
Thank you, Chairman Lawson. I do have a question, and I'm not sure if maybe Ms. Jeffers could answer this or who could answer this, but as far as the community wells on the property, the potable drinking water, do they need, if they add these units, will they need to drill an additional well? Or is the well that's there sufficient for the extra residents?
Good morning. Not having seen it myself to know what the scope of the platform is, I can't answer that, but we would have to take a look at it before we would make that decision.
Okay. Or is it possible, Ms. Wolnick, do you have, or is Ken Anderson in the room this morning? Is there a way of answering that question here today? No. Okay. So that'll have to be researched.
Okay. And may I just make one comment as well? I have visited the MA Center and had the pleasure of meeting with Mr. Ron Grathaugen, and we actually were able to sit and chat for a while. And one of my concerns was if we do grant their special use, will they be occupying the MA Center grounds for several years? I was a little concerned that we may approve it and that 5 or 10 years from now they would, the property possibly could be vacant again. And he assured me, and I felt very good after speaking with him, that they're there to stay. The first MA Center ever proposed and built was in California, and I believe he told me in 1980, and it is still there and operating. So I just wanted to add that comment.
Thank you, Ms. Wodnicki. Other comments or questions? Mr. Smith?
I don't have a problem with the MA Center per se. What I have a problem with is the special use zoning application in this matter. I believe that this application comes well within outside the parameters of a special use zoning application.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Smith. Other questions or comments? Mr. Lewis?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to make these comments in order for the board and others to understand why I'm voting no on this issue. The MA Center is a good organization. I've done appropriate research. They're a quality outfit. They do good things in the world, et cetera. So this is, my vote has nothing to do with the organization. It has everything to do with the vision of the community of Kane County. Over the past 2 decades, our community has invested in a neighborhood of $200 to $250 million in the preservation of open space. It's been an investment that has been made by the Kane County Forest Preserve, by communities of Geneva, St. Charles, et cetera, Aurora, park districts. And I have an obligation to be mindful of that investment. And I believe a vote to establish a high-intensity activity in the midst of that world space is in conflict with the vision of our community and the investment that has been made over the past 2 decades. I voted in favor of the MA Center acquiring the property, and felt that their acquiring it was fine, that they would be a welcome addition to the area, and that their use would be of a low-intensity nature, a modest, minimalistic nature. This request change introduces a considerable number, well, ramps up the intensity. Let me just put it that way. In fact, I will read from the MA Center brochure that the MA Center in Elburn, Illinois is the new hub of AMA's humanitarian, educational, and spiritual activities for the Midwest. Inaugurated by AMA during a 2012 U.S. tour, the center is located on 141 serene acres about 1 hour west of Chicago. The area will provide many peaceful and providing many peaceful and welcoming communities for spiritual seekers to enjoy a contemplative nature, nurturing atmosphere. The issue for me is that citing an intense activity in the 2040 urban, controlled growth environment is in conflict with what our community of Kane County has attempted to do. And if you take a look at a map, a rural map, there are like 140, or I'm sorry, there are like 20 140-acre sites from the north end of Kane County to the south end of Kane County. And I'm not concerned about setting any precedent here or anything else. I'm just pointing out to this board and others who are listening that many organizations are going to be viewing what has been created here in Kane County. This serene, rural environment that our citizens have spent $200 to $250 million to create is very attractive. And we are stewards of that vision. We're stewards of that investment. And for that reason, I can't feel comfortable voting yes for the intensity that is being proposed in this special use application.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lewis. Mr. Kozarek?
Yes. So there's a couple misnomers here. We're getting into the debate of whether or not this is really adding additional intensity to the property. Mr. Lewis just said that he voted in 2012 for this property not knowing that it was going to have this type of intensification. The dormitories or apartment buildings, however you want to look at them, they're temporary housing, are replacing existing structures that were renovated or were removed because renovation costs exceeded what they needed. So I guess my question on that is, if you didn't think this was going to be this intensity, what did you think it was going to be? It's replacing one for one. It's not adding. The only items that are being added are the 72 additional housing, which is for the staff and the permanent personnel of that entity, which are paying taxes like a regular housing development would. So for all the years that we had this as the boarding school, you had the same type of intensity, which I would actually argue was a larger intensity because these kids are there for this calendar school year, which is 9 months. The transient nature of this one, you could have some people there where it's at full occupancy for 3 to 4 weeks. You could probably have periods where you're not going to have maybe 50% of that occupancy. So I would argue you're lessening the intensity. You're getting tax revenue into the community. So I guess I don't really buy that argument. So this is why I continue to support this. I think the MA Center has demonstrated that they are great stewards. They are good partners with our community. We're proud to have them in Kane County. The reason that they're putting forth this petition is because 4 years ago they acquired the land. They were looking to start phase 1. Our staff said, rather than keep coming back to us every 2 years, give us your 40-year outline of how you want to proceed. That's what they're doing. Some of the things that they've asked for in here, such as the organic farm stand, they're currently zoned for that. They could do that tomorrow without any permission from us. But by putting forth everything in one package, we have the ability to make sure that this continues to go with what was already outlined in the 2040 plan, which was discussed in Development Committee, that it works within our 2040 plan. I see no reason to vote against this. I'm in support. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kozarek. Ms. Starrett.
I just had a question actually for Mr. Kozarek. Question is, with regard to taxes, they're paying taxes for all of the facilities except for the main facility where they would worship, and then they will be paying taxes, as the gentleman from the organic farm that's nearby, they will be paying taxes on farming as well?
This is a religious institute. Technically, they do not have to pay taxes at all. In their petition, they have said that they will pay taxes on the 72 units. Mr. Radovich, if you'd like to explain anything further on this, I don't want to put words in your mouth.
And that's including the farming and any proceeds they may make as well? Because I'm not sure that a 501...
I don't believe that they would be, I don't believe that's taxable, but Mr. Radovich, you could answer that for us.
Currently, the residential single-family units are taxed in excess, I believe, of $40-some thousand per year. The religious portion is exempt. I think the taxation on the agricultural is pursuant to real estate, agricultural assessment values. But they are being taxed on the residential, and they do not, they anticipate the same treatment will occur with regard to the 72 duplex units. They will, because the Illinois Property Tax Code and the assessment process would have those be treated similarly to the 13 single-family residents that are currently being taxed. And on the farm produce? Yes. Yeah, and to answer your question, yes, the taxation on the farm produce would occur.
Because with a 501(c), you can only make a certain amount. You can't go over. You have to kind of just cover expenses. So that's the reason why I wanted to make sure that they, as the gentleman back there said, with fair competition. So, and it's very commendable that they are paying their taxes for their residences, even if they didn't have to.
So for the record, the retail operation at the farm stand, one of your questions, or part of your question, had to do with will sales taxes be paid consistent with other operations of the type? And the answer for the record has been yes. Mr. Martin.
Thank you for clarifying that.
I look upon this project as this petition as a continuation and a sophistication of something this board approved in 2012. And from my perspective, this is not a new application. This is just simply a refinement of something that we've already agreed to in concept and that we have seen administered for 4 years in a way that is supportive of the county and its taxpayers, and I'm going to support it on that basis.
Okay. Other comments? Questions? Mr. Davis.
I echo the thoughts of Mr. Martin in terms of continuation, and I think this is a good adaptive reuse of a facility. But the issue of parking was raised, and I am curious, can you address that for me a little bit, Mr. Kozar?
Sure. With the extent of how much parking is actually there, again, these are temporary housing. It is close to the local train station. They said in the hearings that they would be envisioning more commuter traffic into the area, bus system, things of that nature. Mr. Radovich, if you'd like to expound upon any of that. I can say as well, the stormwater or water resources had no concern at that time when we discussed it.
First of all, the 2012 application and the site plan showed a number of parking areas on that plan. With regard to the temporary housing, the plan is to have more than half of the parking underground, under the buildings themselves. So a good portion would be accommodated there. With regard to the duplexes, the required parking spaces will be accommodated in the duplex through the garage or the driveway, just as is typical with any kind of residential plan. So I think parking certainly will be a part of the building permit application and reviewed by your professional staff in that regard.
Okay, other questions, comments? Ms. Allen.
I appreciate that Mr. Smith thinks of agricultural land as sacrosanct, and I appreciate that. If I were going to take a parcel and try and revamp it from its broad view use, I would have to defer to the experts who would know how to set that up and plan for drainage and so on. So I think this is a case where I'm going to rely on the expertise of our staff as to how to handle this. If our development department has laid out site plans that they are comfortable with, and if our environmental management people are going to be looking at the drainage plan as these buildings are permitted and so on, I think I can trust them to say, this is what will work and this is what will not. And if you don't have a permit, you can't build. So if you do have a permit, it's been studied and this is the best way to do it. I'm going to trust the experts here and trust our staff.
Okay, thanks, Ms. Allen.
Mr. Chairman, in response to that, Ms. Allen, the Development Department and our staff make recommendations. That's what they are here for. We are elected here to make the decisions. We take their recommendations and we have to make our own decisions.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Other questions, comments? Okay, with that, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Allen. Aye. Auger.
Yes.
Barrio. Yes. Castro. Yes. Dahl. Yes. Davis. Yes. Franz. Gilliam. Yes. Heyman.
Yes.
Ishmael. Yes. Kenyon.
Yes.
Kazari.
Yes.
Leonard.
Yes.
Lewis.
No.
Martin.
Yes.
Molina. Yes. Pollock. Yes. Sheffro.
Yes.
Silva.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Starrett.
Yes.
Vasquez. Yes. Winnicki.
Yes.
Okay, the motion on the petition passes. Mr. Kozarek, for petition 4381, please.
Thank you. Our second petition of the morning is petition 4381, located in Caneville Township. Petitioner James William Smith Trust, no relation to Mr. T.R. Smith.
Probably past that.
Is proposing rezoning of an F district farming to F1 district rural residential. There are no objectors. It is cited as the agricultural and the 2040 plan. The zoning board approved, development committee approved, which is countered actually to what is stated here. I would make the motion to approve today.
Okay, so moved by Mr. Kozarek, second by Mr. Franz. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Allen. Auger.
Yes.
Barrio. Yes. Castro. Yes. Dahl.
Yes.
Davis. Yes. Franz. Gilliam.
Yes.
Heyman.
Yes.
Ishmael. Kenyon.
Yes.
Kazari.
Yes.
Leonard. Yes. Lewis. Yes. Martin. Yes. Molina. Yes. Pollock. Yes. Sheffro. Yes. Silva.
Yes.
Smith. Yes. Starrett.
Yes.
Vasquez.
Yes.
Winnicki.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you very much, Mr. Kozarek. Okay, on resolutions and ordinances, is there anybody who would like to remove an item from the consent agenda? Ms. Castro?
Can we remove 16-209?
16-209? Okay, thank you. Others? Ms. Allen?
211.
Okay, 16-211. Any others? Mr. Kozarek?
It could be noted that I'll be abstaining from 16-212.
Okay, so noted. Okay, other comments, questions? Okay, if not, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exceptions of 16209, 16211, with the note that Mr. Kozarek will be abstaining on 16212. So moved by Mr. Heyman, second by Mr. Davist. All those, excuse me, the clerk call the roll.
Allen? Auger?
Yes.
Valerio? Castro?
Yes.
Dahl?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Franz? Yes. Villa?
Yes.
Heyman?
Yes.
Ishmael? Yes. Kenyon? Yes. Kazari? Yes. Leonard?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Molina? Yes. Pollock? Yes. Sheffro?
Yes.
Silva? Smith? Yes. Sterrett?
Yes.
Vasquez?
Yes.
Wadicki?
Okay, the motion passes. Ms. Castro on 16209.
I will move it.
Okay, so moved by Ms. Castro, second by Ms. Barrero. Ms. Castro?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know there were some questions at executive on this resolution, so I've invited, asked Joe McMahon if he can address those as far as the amounts that are appropriated for this particular resolution.
Good morning. So I think the question was really the source of funds and how much money that we're talking about. The source of funds for this contract are grant funds from the National Association of Child Advocacy Centers. It's a pass-through to the University of Illinois, who then provide on-site medical examinations for individuals who are coming into the Child Advocacy Center. I do have, this is Deb Breed. Deb is the Executive Director of the Child Advocacy Center. I'd like her to give an overview of the exact dollar amounts, if that's okay with Mr. Chairman and the Board.
Sure, and briefly, if you can sum that up, that'd be good.
I will. Thank you. Good morning. Yes, this is a grant that we receive, a federal grant through the Department of Justice and National Children's Alliance. It's for $8,000. Broken up into a 12-month period to provide for our specialized sexual abuse medical exams at the Child Advocacy Center.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions?
Very good.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So any further comment? If not, clerk, call the roll.
Allen? Auger?
Yes.
Valerio? Yes. Castro? Yes. Dahl?
Yes.
Davis? Yes. Franz?
Yes.
Gillum? Heyman?
Yes.
Ishmael? Yes. Kenyon? Yes. Kazari? Yes. Leonard? Yes. Lewis?
Yes.
Martin? Yes. Molina? Pollock? Yes. Pollock?
Yes.
Sheffro? Yes. Silva?
Yes.
Smith? Yes. Sterrett?
Yes.
Vasquez?
Yes.
Wadicki?
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. On number 16211, Ms. Allen. Okay, so moved by Ms. Allen, second by Mr. Heyman. Ms. Allen.
Sure. I'd like to talk to this for a minute. Every 2 years, we approve the appointment of election judges, and the simple fact is that we always need more. And so at the direction of our county clerk, who is ultimately responsible for our elections, Mr. Cunningham, and the suggestion of our chairman, Mr. Lausen, I wanted to make an appeal to the folks who are here. You all are the most vested people in the county. For heaven's sakes, you got up this morning and came here. So thanks for doing that. And can I also ask, would you be willing to take a look at our list of election judges that we have so far? And if you have neighbors or friends that you recognize, say thanks to them for being willing to serve. And if there are names that are missing, people that you're used to seeing in your polling places, or if you have young people, juniors or seniors in high school, or people who are going to community college who would be interested in this process, could you ask them to make contact with the clerk's office and find out what's involved and see if they'd be interested? We always need good people who are interested in the democratic process and willing to serve. And there's a little bit of money to be made and a little bit of technology to be used. And the fact is that the more technologically advanced we get in our election processes, the more we can use people who are comfortable with their computers and comfortable with their applications, so that they can move into this area and help the public as well. I asked Mr. Blair Peters of our IT department to just show you how to go through this drill so you can look up the names of people who are already serving. If you go to our webpage, our homepage, www.countyofkane.org, on the right-hand side, you will see meetings and agendas and meetings, and you'll click on that. And then on the far left, you'll see a standing committee called Public Service, and click on that. And then scroll down to the June agenda, and if you'll click on that, you'll have our agenda. And you can either scroll all the way down through the agenda, or you can use the bookmark on the far left that has to do with this resolution on election judges. And then that shows the executive summary, it shows the resolution we're approving today, hopefully, and then it shows the list of judges. So this was a teaching moment. Hope that makes you comfortable with using our website and finding those judges, and if you can be of help, we would be most grateful. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's how I wanted to address this resolution this morning.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Mr. Cunningham?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Ms. Allen for her helping us recruit judges, because we do need judges. And if you're 17 years old with a proper grade point, you can come and be an election judge. And the important part is that we are paying our judges $200 now, and this helps kids go to school and so on. Basically, this resolution today is a legal matter because we have to have the circuit court appoint the judges as officers of the court, which gives them the power to challenge the ballot. So today, they will pass this. It'll be turned over to the circuit clerk, who will then have one of the judges authorize these people to be election judges, and therefore members of the court. Gives them their legal power to object if you're doing something wrong in the election process.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cunningham. Ms. Allen?
I just wanted to add, one of our friends said everybody here belongs to organizations, service organizations, neighborhood organizations, PTOs. If you're willing to just reach out to some of your friends and neighbors, I mean, look at Mr. Martin and the example he sets for us. If you're willing to reach out to friends and neighbors, it would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Any other comments, questions? If not, clerk, call the roll.
Allen? Aye. Auger? Yes. Ferrio? Yes. Castro?
Yes.
Dahl?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Franz?
Yes.
Gillum?
Yes.
Heyman? Yes. Ishmael?
Yes.
Kenyon?
Yes.
Kazarek?
Yes.
Leonard?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Molina? Yes. Pollock?
Yes.
Sheffro?
Yes.
Silva? Yes. Smith?
Yes.
Sterrett?
Yes.
Vasquez? Winicky?
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. Thank you very much. I'm not going to call an executive session today. We'll defer the issues to be discussed to our next meeting. However, we do have, I believe, 3 speakers who have signed up on non-agenda items. So just as a reminder, individuals who have registered to speak on non-agenda items as of yesterday, 3 o'clock, are permitted 3 minutes to address the board. The total public comment time for items not listed on the agenda limited by practice to 15 minutes. So I believe that the first person who has signed up.
Mr. Chairman, point of order. You have one more resolution on there, the appointment.
Yes, I'm not going to call that.
Oh, you're going to hold it off till
Correct.
next, okay.
But thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's good. People paying attention. Good, thank you. So Mr. Ray Dagan, am I pronouncing that right, Ray? Am I pronouncing that right?
Dagon.
Dagon.
Okay. And I just wondered if it would be possible, the 2 speakers were also speaking on a similar issue. Could they cede their time to me? Is that possible? Or?
Let's see. Let's see. So your presentation, so the other 2 people, are they here today?
They are. They're
okay.
with me, and they're going to come up.
And are they, okay, and your presentation will require 9 minutes?
It may. It may.
Okay. you know, at your prerogative, with the permission of the board, is that acceptable? We don't do it that way, but in this case, within the 9 minutes, you'll have 9 minutes to speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So go ahead, Ray.
Okay, thank you. My name is Ray Dagon. I reside at 1305 East Indian Trail in Aurora at the Transitional Living Facility. I'm a lifelong disabled public servant, a longtime Kane County resident with mental and physical disabilities. I emailed the board an important email recently, like yesterday, I believe, or the day before, and hopefully you've received it. I've spoken actually at approximately 4 out of the last 6 public health committee meetings. I have what is called a condition, I believe it's called MCS, multiple chemical sensitivities, which basically is severe intolerance to secondhand smoke, which severely exacerbates my mental and physical disabilities. And I've been suffering from illegal smoke, I believe, and evidence shows here in Kane County for 5 out of the last 7 years, especially the last year in a residential mental health care facility that's fully protected by Smoke-Free Illinois. And I have emailed and I've gone through proper channels. I've filed a Smoke-Free Illinois complaint against the facility with the Kane County Health Department. And I've copied board members and yourself, Mr. Chairman, about that. And it's been devastating. I mean, in the last year, I've been hospitalized many times, including twice for multi-day hospitalizations, psychiatric hospitalizations, and one recent one. And I'm really worried about actually going back for another psychiatric hospitalization as a consequence of the situation. I'm just requesting immediate enforcement of Smoke-Free Illinois. With all due respect, I mean, I'm just having some issues with the way the health department is enforcing it. I mean, and with all due respect, I mean, I do not believe that the health department is enforcing it in a constitutional and/or legal fashion, enforcing Smoke-Free Illinois. I'm not sure what to do, actually. I'm just requesting, and in the email I requested an immediate enforcement of Smoke-Free Illinois, which I would again request, as well as assistance with finding housing. I mean, the air has not been tested in my facility, and I have dozens of witness statements which I've emailed the members of the board. And I think that also, just on a note, that I think it's very important to help to set legal precedent, which could save, more increasing evidence shows that it could save taxpayers a great deal of money. And also, I believe, because of the increasing evidence of how even secondhand smoke can interfere with mental health, it could help to create peace, potentially help to create peace desperately needed peace in our society. But so I'm just most urgently requesting the help of this board, and you know, with enforcing Smoke-Free Illinois and finding smoke-free housing as soon as possible. I'm just very concerned. I have 2 witnesses here with me. And like I said, if the board needs, if there's time, if the board needs to hear from them or would like to hear from them, they'd be willing to speak. I just wasn't sure.
Okay, is that, do you need any other time to address your
and
subject?
I have any documents. I also have medical documents that I'd be willing to share with the board afterward. I emailed the board some of the witness statements, and I emailed them some of the information. And I have any documents I'd be willing to email or show right now to the board. Any further documentation, any questions any members of the board have, or yourself, Mr. Chairman, I'd be more than happy to share this with you.
Okay. Anything else, Ray?
That would be it, actually.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me just ask if there's anyone else in the audience not on that issue. The 2 speakers ceded their time to the primary speaker. Is there anybody else who would like to speak on a non-agenda item? Okay, if not, I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman?
Oh, yes, Dr. Silva.
Would it be okay with you if I addressed a couple of Mr. Dagon's comments? I can say
Yes,
those.
briefly, thank you. It's as all of us know, and Dr. Silva, you better than anybody,
I can reserve
the
those.
comments are not, and when people ask questions, they need to be rhetorical questions, because at this point in the process, this is not a question and answer period. However, if Dr. Silva, you would like to make a comment on what you've heard as one of our most valued board members.
Thank you for indulging me, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to let the board know that we do take these comments and these complaints seriously. The health department has been out to Mr. Dagon's residence at least 3 times. Meetings have been convened. Aurora Police Department has also been involved numerous times. So I do want to let you know that we have taken this very, very seriously. Okay?
Thank you, Dr. Silva. Okay, if there are no other comments, questions, I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn. Mr. Heyman, second by Mr. Smith. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. We're adjourned.